Hello Exile, I am back with an update to the Molten Strike of the Zenith Juggernaut League start I did. This build was created by Connor Converse and it's been excellent so far. I'm coming towards the end of the second budget build. So far the character is almost unkillable when clearing in maps, and bosses don't do much better against me either. There have been a couple of comments saying that the build doesn't survive very well or that they're doing 0 damage. I'm going to try and point you in the right direction on how to solve those two problems. And while we go over those, I'm going to show two different map playthroughs in the background. One is a pretty standard tier 16 map, you'll see I have no problem with it whatsoever. The second one has Shaper touched and is just toxic. And even in the toxic one, nothing comes close to even killing me. But it does take a hell of a lot longer to get through. It's quite difficult to talk about fixing the build's defences and the offences in isolation because they're interrelated. So let's talk about the interconnected stuff first, and then we'll talk about the outliers separate. A basic lesson on the mechanics of Molten Strike of the Zenith. If you have terrible attack speed, this will be worse than normal Molten Strike. And that is because it only gets bonus damage every 5th hit. Or in the case of using multi-strike, every 15th hit. All of the other hits do a worse version of normal Molten Strike. It's of the utmost importance that we boost our attack speed so that we are doing a ridiculous number of attacks per second. If you switch to multi-strike with only 3 hits per second, you are going to do incredibly badly. And that's because for 5 seconds you'll be doing practically no damage, and then you'll do a massive hit. Because one of our main survivability factors is our leech, and also life on hit, the faster we attack the more survivable we are as well. And also if our life pool supports it, we'll get a bigger leech from more damage. But you'll reach leech cap very quickly on this build regardless. I cannot stress enough how important it is to get Molten Strike of the Zenith to top quality quickly. And that's because the bonus hit on Molten Strike of the Zenith is a massive more multiplier. And every 1% quality increases that multiplier by 10%. On a 23% quality gem, the damage will be 830% more damage with hits and ailments. That is huge. Nothing else in the game gets anywhere near that big. Now because you only do that bonus damage every so often, you get like a saw blade in damage, so you'll do a huge amount of damage and then you'll do mediocre damage. And then a huge amount of damage and some mediocre damage. And it feels rather inconsistent, so you could be stood there hitting a boss for like 2 seconds and really nothing's happening, and then you'll take all his life away with the next hit. It's silly. But it can give you the impression that you're not doing any damage, and that's simply not true. It's just the way the skill works. Now, the more attack speed you do, the more frequent you get those big hits, and so it's really important to scale your attack speed to bring those big hits closer together. And because we're a Juggernaut with Undeniable, we do not need to get every attack speed node on the tree. There is a far easier way, and that is to stack accuracy rating and strength. Every 150 accuracy rating we get 1% increased attack speed. We can gain accuracy rating by either getting accuracy rating on our gear or on the tree, or we can increase our strength, because every 10 strength gives us 20 accuracy rating, because Undeniable gives you double the amount of strength as accuracy rating. I have over 10,700 accuracy, and a large percentage of that comes from strength. Strength also gives us direct damage, because our weapon in the second build gives us X to X fire damage to attacks with this weapon per 10 strength. It is critically important that you do not skimp on that roll. You want the maximum 3 to 5 fire damage. The difference on the high end between 4 and 5 is over 100 damage per hit based on my strength, which is nowhere near as high as it will go. And this is base damage, so it's before all the multipliers kick in. The multiplier off the Zenith bonus, the multipliers off our gear and tree. This will add up to potentially thousands or even millions in the end game, so please, please, please get a really good roll. And for strength, I have 1,238. You may also know that strength gives you life. So, it's giving us accuracy, attack speed, damage, and life. It's absolutely crazy how important strength is. How do we scale our strength up to that number? Well, every item on your build that isn't unique should have strength on it. I haven't got any on my sword, but I have on pretty much everything else other than my gloves, which would be super expensive with strength on, given the other roll. My boots have 54 strength, my belt has 70, 80 odd, 105 on one of the rings, 50 on another, and I'm using an Astramentus, which I've started to stack quality on for attribute modifiers, and that's over 117 extra strength from that. And then on the body armor, we have 8% increased attributes, which multiplies all of that up. I also have a lethal pride jewel, which gives me 78 strength based on the nodes around it. It doesn't give me a multiplier. I need to find one that gives me a multiplier, but they're really expensive at the moment. Also, don't underestimate the cluster jewels. And you do want them to be as small as possible so you can get more rolls on them. I have 2 of them now, perfect, and Martial Mastery and Martial Prowess are on these 2 slots here. Note that where these lay depends upon the node at the end of the tree here. I'm using Graceful Execution because it was the cheapest that gives the other 2 nodes here, because Graceful Execution always takes up this slot. You don't want these to take up this slot because we don't use it normally. I am using it here just until I can get another node on the tree because it's good anyway, Graceful Execution. But these give you a ton, and I mean an absolute ton, of attack speed. But also Global Accuracy Rating, which scales up our accuracy. Okay, so that covers the joint bits. For defenses, there is lots of ways of defending yourself. One is getting critical damage reduction. I have a minus 10% roll on my lethal pride jewel, so that's decent. You also want all your resistances to be overcapped, so if we get elemental weakness as a curse on our maps, we can still run them and still be capped off. My lowest max resist is 77%, my highest is 79%, and I finally got to up about 61% chaos resistance. Obviously, I want this capped, but the problem with resistances is they conflict with strength, because they share a suffix slot. Endurance charges also give us massive reduction to incoming damage, both physical and elemental. Use Enduring Cry whenever this goes down, so if you've had a gap between fighting, make sure when you go into the next fight, when you're close to the monsters, hit Enduring Cry. It will boost your endurance charges and so you can get more through attacks. You want as much armor as feasibly possible. I have 17,400 armor. And then for our flasks, do get the Ruby Flask, Topaz Flask, and Sapphire Flask for defenses. The Silver Flask will also give you attack speed via Onslaught, which is really useful. For all my flasks, I have a roll of used when charges reach full. I do still have a Life Flask because I need anti-bleed still. Okay, so where am I? My build is doing tooltip damage of 125,400. I gain over 1,000 every time I add 10 strength to the build. It's that strong. I got to level 97, and when I die now, it's really because I did something stupid. It's normally standing too long in the explosive things in Harvest, which I'm still using for currency generation. In total, currency-wise, I think I've spent about 32 divines on the build. 9 of those were on this Molten Strike of the Zenith, which is a 21-23. The extra 30% more damage is massive. Also, if you're going to buy this 9 Divine Gem, buy it on a Monday after the weekend finishes. During the weekend, it ramps up to like 18 Divines. And then the moment it gets towards the end of the weekend, so end of day Sunday, it starts to plummet. And then on Monday, I think they get down to around 7 if you're lucky. Well, this was not going to be the update I had planned. However, there were people struggling, and so I did want to just give you loads of detail on how I went towards fixing damage and fixing survivability. I am going to take a break from this character for a while. I want to try Garatha's Rolling Magma Mine Saboteur, which looks really cool. If you found this video useful, then please leave a like and consider subscribing. It helps the channel an awful lot. And with that, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.